Right here, I've got 3 different PL to L mount adapters, and I'm gonna be talking about my experience with all 3 of them. Over the years, especially this year, it seems like there is a lot more options now. Full disclosure, the Sigma I purchased myself. This Mikay one I also purchased myself, but this Viltrox one was sent to me. They obviously have no influence on my thoughts and opinions on it. It's really nice that more of these are coming to market because I did return early on a different L to PL mount adapter before I ended up buying the Sigma version. They've all kind of got pros and cons, but one of them to me stands out the most. My name's Dustin, your video tour guide, and remember to keep your arms and legs inside your chairs at all times. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Let's start with the Sigma MC31. This one I have owned the longest and have the most experience with, and I've actually made a review video on this mount. So if you haven't watched that, be sure to go watch that. But since that video, I've actually discovered some more things that make me kind of not gravitate towards this mount. The nicest thing about this mount is that it does come with different shims. So then you can change the flange distance if you notice that you aren't getting infinity or something like that. So that is kind of nice about this one, but it's very expensive. I think it cost about $680. Now the build quality on it is obviously really nice, which is what we expect from Sigma. And there is also a screw on the inside of this mount that you can screw in a bolt to tighten, say, like an anamorphic lens in case the lens is shifting a bit. So none of these other 2 adapters have that. But the biggest disadvantage that I ran into with the Sigma is I purchased a full cine kit of the dual lens. I unfortunately don't have them here with me today because I co-signed them with a local rental house and they are on a shoot right now. But I'll throw out some pictures. Basically, the lenses have a little piece on it that prevent reflections from hitting the inside of the lens. And if that piece is on the lens, unfortunately it won't fit on the Sigma. You have to unscrew it and put it on. Now the creator of dual lens said that he would create different eyepieces so that it will fit on there. And I'm currently kind of working with him in order to make that available to those who have bought this adapter and they've also bought a dual lens. Besides that though, it's kind of just a standard mount. You can unscrew this bottom piece here and I've had no problems besides that one. I will say when it comes to the mount too, or this piece that you screw to lock the lens as well, it can be sometimes kind of hard to unlock it. I've noticed putting other lenses on, and so one other kind of small disadvantage. Let me move on to the Mikay. This one has a drop-in ND built into it, so that's kind of a big advantage there. This is just the clear piece that you put on there if you are not using the variable ND or something else. So they just come in this little case right here. And then you can just screw this here and that adjusts the ND. It's a very nice minimal design. I know there's another one out there that exists that is more pricey than the Mikay, but I've kind of heard some disadvantages with that. When this one is mounted on the camera, for example, the biggest disadvantage is that if you have a cage as well on the camera, it may not clear the cage. It does with the small rig one, but I can't confirm that it will on every cage because it is pretty close on the small rig. But I've heard on that other version, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got like a purple kind of accents to it. I've heard on that version that it can not be removable. In order to remove it, you basically have to remove the cage. If you're not changing out NDs though, it's not a very big deal. My main complaint on the Mikay is the build quality. One, it feels very loose on the body, and I forgot to mention on the Sigma, it's tight and it feels great. But on this one, it feels pretty loose on there, and also the rest of it just kind of feels kind of just plasticky, and I'm not really loving it now that I've owned it for quite a while. It's possible that their newer version, which I think exists, is better than this one, but the other disadvantage to using a drop-in ND L to PL mount adapter is that you see that I actually got this lens on there, but I can't actually use this adapter with these Athenas, and there's a review coming soon on these Athenas, but you'll notice that once I adjust the focus on here, this back element will start to protrude further backwards, and I actually won't be able to get this on now unless I remove that drop-in ND. So that is something to keep in mind, not even just with the Mikay, but any PL to L mount adapter that you buy that it's possible that not all lenses will work with that adapter. But I will say for lenses that it does work on the dual lens. If you're curious, this mount does work with the normal kind of lens elements. Sorry, I forget what that piece is called. But yeah, generally, I think the price for this, I paid like $400. And so for just like a PL to L mount adapter, it's pretty good. But if you buy the drop-in ND as well, I think it's around $400-ish. Don't quote me on that. Maybe I should have just looked up the prices beforehand. Anyway, so these two I have the most experience with, and there are downsides to each of them. And now let me move on to this Viltrox one. The reason why I really like this Viltrox one is that the build quality is actually really nice. The whole thing is made of like a nice hefty metal. These kind of hooks that help unlock the mount are also really nice. I think the cap is really nice. Just kind of overall build quality, I think it's a good mix between the Sigma and the Mikay, and you could actually argue that it's maybe build quality wise a tiny bit better than the Sigma, although it doesn't have a screw in here in order to, say, lock the lens tighter. But out of all three of them, let me just put on the Sigma as well just to make sure that I'm not making stuff up. The Sigma is very snug, very tight, which is good. And the Viltrox is very comparable, fit-wise to the Sigma. You can also unscrew this like you can on all of them. I think I actually screwed it off on the Mikay, and I don't even know where that piece is now. One thing I could see being kind of a disadvantage is that these could get in the way. They do protrude quite a bit far out, very similar to the Mikay, but slightly more. However, they are removable, so not that big of a deal. Oh, and last thing, let me just put this lens on here so you can see that it's also very snug, like it is on the Sigma. It's actually extremely snug. Slides in there really nice and locks down very nicely. It's very solid. These Athenas, don't underestimate their size. They're actually quite heavy. But yeah, locks on there, very nice. There's very, very, very minimal give, if any give, honestly, once the lens is on there. So, but yeah, if I were to kind of like rank the three and give advice on which one is probably best, like the Sigma, you can't go wrong, but for the price, it's very pricey for what you get. And the Mikay, like I said, it is very, very nice that there's tons of other filters, but you can get a variable ND on this guy, and it doesn't protrude at all. Disadvantage, you can't put like a motor on it. Maybe you could. I don't think you could actually. And the quality of the ND is pretty nice as well. I didn't really have any complaints on it, but the build quality is not amazing. There was a recent shoot where I was using the dual lens with this, and I was not really loving the mount. It just felt super loose when I was pulling focus and stuff, and I wasn't really loving it. And to be fair, I haven't used this one on a shoot, but I mean, there's not really much else to say. I mean, it's just very solid on there. When I use everything on this lens, I don't feel any give. I don't feel any, kind of wiggle. It's a very solid mount, and for a great price. It's around $200, so it's actually the cheapest out of all three of these, and yet it probably has basically the same build quality as the Sigma, but it doesn't have the shims or the screw for the lens. That's really basically it. There are other PL to L mount adapters that exist in this price range though. I think actually Nisi, the brand that makes this lens, also has an L to PL mount adapter. So yeah, if I were to choose one just out of these three though, I would definitely go with the Viltrox, especially if you're looking to not spend a ton of money and you don't need a variable ND. And I've never had to use that screw on the inside so far on the Sigma, and you need something solid that's a good build quality that will just get the job done. Let me know your thoughts though, and if you have suggestions or if you've used other PL to L mount adapters and love them, let me know. And by the way, I just launched this hoodie on my website, and I will be launching this hat soon as well. This is the aspect ratio brim, and this is the color checker tee. This is not color accurate, although if you're interested in me maybe looking into making a color accurate version, let me know. And any purchase as well, if you add my LUTs to your cart, you'll get my LUTs for free. And you can also use code WEB10. I think it's WEB10, and the first 100 orders that use that code will get 10% off. But you can also support the channel just by subscribing so you don't miss any future uploads. Till the next video though, happy filming.